Now imagine you came to the end of your driving lesson and the instructor turned to you and said, "Very nice, that was a 7. You'd probably feel a bit confused. He would have given you a summary of your learning, but what you really need is an explanation of how to get better, and that's something quite different. Of course, historically, that's a trap the education system has fallen into when it comes to assessment, to focus on grades and marks instead of guidance that helps students to improve. We've had a lot of assessment of learning, but not enough assessment for learning. In this part of the course, we will be looking at what assessment for learning means in practice and how you can make it more of a part of your teaching. I found it made me constantly alive to what my students are learning. It's helped me to see myself as much as a coach as a teacher. So, what is assessment for learning? The original research was put together by 2 professors of education working in the United Kingdom, Dylan William and Paul Black. They wanted to know what's going on inside the classroom, the black box, as they called it. They wanted to know what teachers do. Contrary to popular belief, assessment for learning is actually pretty straightforward. Assessment for learning involves seeing assessment as a means to support learning rather than as a summary of what learning has taken place.
You had children that wanted to try but they're being pushed back because of other pupils.
Right.
But if they were in a mixed set, it wouldn't be as bad.
Right, so almost that certain norms were being allowed to develop.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, very nice. Thank you, Lauren. I like the way you explained it with the example. Abby, having heard that, would you change your opinion? There is a bit more to it than just formative assessment, though. Let's look at some examples. There are 3 key elements, each explicitly tied to what happens in the classroom. Element 1 is eliciting and using information. Here, we are using assessment to find out about what our students know and think.
Why do you think burning magnesium is exothermic?
Because it gives off light energy, like when it's burned.
We can then use this information to adapt, change and alter our teaching, so it more closely matches our students' needs. Element 2 is opening up success criteria. This means helping pupils to understand what it is that their work will be judged against.
I'm going to give you a minute just to discuss what task you went for.
Knowing this means that students are better placed to be successful. Element 3 is providing effective formative feedback. Formative feedback is feedback that explains to students what they have done well and what they need to do to improve. Thus, it is assessment for learning. It helps students to make progress.
He's really good at his tension and he just does it really good.
So, but you wouldn't say, if you look at a 6, he's not smooth and professional quite yet, is that right?
This is in contrast to summative feedback, which sums up what pupils have learned in the form of a grade, level or mark.
They cannot, if we've done our job properly, just go, that was no good, or I like that, okay? Because that's not high-level thinking. You need to explain why it was good and what you need to do to improve to the next level.
So, how do we know that assessment for learning works? Firstly, the benefits seem obvious from logic and common sense. Clearly, it's better if we know more about students' learning and thinking and are using this information to adapt our teaching. Also, students must benefit from understanding what success looks like and what it is they need to do to improve. Secondly, and most powerfully, there is the research evidence provided by Black and William, and this suggests that assessment for learning has a significant effect on student achievement. Also, John Hattie, a professor of education from Melbourne, Australia, has shown that effective feedback, one of the key elements of AFL, sits near the top of the pile for impact on student learning. Yeah, I want you to take them home because you need to finish your work, yeah. Come and see me before half term if you have any problems with the write-up. You may go, thank you very much. To conclude, research evidence and common sense tells us that assessment for learning is effective. And by assessment for learning, we mean eliciting and using information, opening up success criteria, and providing effective formative feedback. So let me leave you with a question. Think back to your own time at school. What experiences of assessment did you have? We'd like to hear your best and your worst.